Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ireland Esports Collegiate Series TFT Winter Season, the week 2 of the competition. We've had a huge patch, and I'm Invective. I'm here with Deadly Ghost. We are so happy to be bringing you this broadcast this afternoon.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're enjoying the new patch, and hope you're very excited to watch some Ireland, the Ireland Collegiate series. I know I am, and like we said, Invective, we have a huge patch dropped on us in the week before week 1 and week 2. So I think this is going to bring in a lot of new stuff. A lot of interesting things are going to happen. So I'm just very excited.
Yeah, I think the previous week of competition was excellent, but a lot of the gameplay revolved around forecasts, and I think that that is something that many TFT players tend to enjoy, but it can also be a little bit restrictive if everybody is following the same kind of gameplay and the same kind of tempo, and there's only one real viable pool of units to choose from in the late game. That can be difficult. What we've seen since then is that the meta has shifted towards a wide variety of reroll options. Mages were very strong for a short period of time as the B patch corrected some of the excesses of those mages, but I think they are still very strong. And 1, 2, and 3 cost reroll are all alive and well in this patch.
I mean, I would definitely agree with you on the mages. As we can see the patch notes here, a lot of things got buffed. You have Bastion, Eldritch, a mage. Portal got a little bit of a buff after receiving a heavy nerf, and also Shapeshifter and Sugarcraft. I gotta say, I haven't seen a lot more Sugarcraft being played recently because, you know, Soraka got a little bit of a buff last patch. Rumble and Gwen have always been some really good units, and you can't go wrong with the Jinx reroll.
Yeah, I think Jinx reroll looks super good. Like Sugarcraft emblems are very strong in the stats. Being able to stack up those sugar cakes earlier on into the game is very efficient. And what I've seen a lot this week is that players are getting a lot better at playing Sugarcraft throughout the game, and then they cast.
You can just hit the Shyvana too. You can just hit a few of these one cost and two cost, and just up your game from there. And like you said, fast 9, and also you should stick to colleagues. You have a big enough resume to definitely keep it at colleagues.
No, I mean, like, they're definitely better than me on this set. I haven't had that much time to play around with TFT this set, but it is a lot of fun. I think that, the wide variety of paths you can take through the game is part of what makes TFT interesting, and I'm glad that, different 1 and 2 cost units are getting their time in the spotlight. Now, what I would also say is that a lot of the augments in the early stages of the game can be very impactful, right? We know that artifacts such as Vampiric Scepter can empower one particular reroll composition to play around Warwick. And we also know that augments like Learning to Spell can be very impactful if you are playing around one of these AP reroll strategies, right? Whether that's Vigar, whether that's Bard, Hwei, or Syndra. I think that all of those options are really enabled by the fact that you get that extra AP stacking from the start of the game.
Yeah, I can't really add much to that, other than just note that Warwick has been basically the bane of my nightmares for the last 3 patches, because I get Artifact Anvil, and
Yeah, for sure. I think also to speak on some of those augments, like both of the worth the wait augments at the gold and prismatic level, those can be super impactful, right? We've seen the players very willing to gamble on that 1 or 2 cost that they get, and then they can leverage that into even a 4-star unit later on down the line. There's also huge synergy with other augments. I know the Warwick tree has its own set of augments that make it really, really powerful, such as Shields Up, such as Inspiring Epitaph, but there's also a bunch of power to be had when you have 2 tanky for your frontline, and those Shyvanas go absolutely crazy.
well, Shyvana with 2 tanky, that's already thinking about it. It's a nightmare.
It is a
But
nightmare.
yeah, so for me, Worth the Wait is just such a strong augment right now that I think it's almost unskippable. Uh, because you can just get so much power, especially with the buffed one cost here. Uh, like you can have a mage Soraka just obliterate a whole board, or even I've seen some Twitch boards coming up with like the frost trait.
Yeah, for sure. Great synergy with the Warwick, and the Hunters can be so powerful when you enable them with certain items, such as Spear of Shojin, so they cast more, but also like things like Fish Bones, things like the Sniper's Focus. If you get damage splash on the backline, there's just so much power in the Hunter units that like you can really take care of backline units very, very efficiently.
Yeah, that I mean it's just so strong. It's so powerful. I haven't been able to test out the prismatic one yet, but I've already seen some people do some crazy things with it. So hopefully maybe we can get the game in here. It is we could have some prismatic lobbies. So hopefully we get Worth the Wait 2, and we just get a two cost 4-star. Never thought I'd be saying that.
Yeah, it's been a long time since Moonlight was a part of the game. Now
Uh,
there are certain instances where you do get that. I think the Moonlight Ritual charm, and you do get that 4-star unit. Uh, but I think actually being able to build one is a fun experience. Um, I don't know if that's something that's going to stay in the game as time goes on, because balancing around 4-star 2 costs, 4-star 1 costs might be difficult. But I feel like they're not extremely dominant outside of those like artifact situations.
uh, Man, there's always the build a bud into the charm situation and just have a 3 cost 2-star at 2-1. But yeah, we are just we're just so excited. I mean, I am excited. I hope you are as well, because it is a very big patch. We have a lot of new things, and we are loading onto the game very, very quickly, as production has just informed us. So we are going to be getting into the first game very, 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 very quickly, and hopefully we can bring you some TFT action from week 2 of the Iron Esports Collegiate series.
Yeah, and it's energies that you get to try out. I think that is part of the fun of TFT, is that the game continues to change, and you can apply your fundamentals to a new set of like variables, a new set of experiences with these kinds of units. And having these 2 games on a weeknight is actually like, it sounds like a lot of fun. Something I wish I had while I was in university.
I mean, I live in a little bit of a basically I'm in a third world country where colleges don't even offer esports scholarships. So just seeing how much has been done in the last few years, especially even with COVID impacting the world as it did, is just so inspirational. And so uh, you know it's very touching, and I'm very happy to see it go.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to have this kind of collegiate esports experience. I was never any good at League of Legends, but hey, one day there will be a TFT scholarship for, for an actual college degree, and that would be an absolute dream for some of those young players who are really up and coming. And I think we're just about to get into game. Any minute now, we are going to have some TFT action, some portal selection, and a set of augments to look at.
And speaking of uh, speaking of portals and augments, do you have a new favorite portal or augment with this patch?
I would say that Draconic Mastery is one of those augments where I feel like that can really just define the entire game for you. You know, having the ability to buff up your dragons early on in the game, play around that Namzi, play around the Shyvana, and then later on in the game you get 3 dragon, I think for free. You just get the Smolder later on in the game. That's just a wonderful. I mean, like it might be very straightforward, but I think it's a very strong way to play the game.
Yeah, you do need those 60 takedowns to get the smolder, but it's still a very, very fun augment, and we have loaded up into game, and let's see what the portal will be, and it is going to be Anvil Buffet. And this is actually a portal that I very much enjoy, because sometimes, you're just missing a key component, and right now all items will be dropping as component anvils. Yeah, for those of you who are maybe unfamiliar with the portal, and it just means that our players here can have some more options to choose from for items to optimize their comps a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that this portal will really allow players to choose their line efficiently and make some good decisions around that, right? Scouting is going to be really important. I think that when you are choosing your line in the early game, you don't really have as much information to go off of because not everybody's items are all going to be on their bench. So it can also pay to be conservative with the opening of your anvils and to slam items that are a little bit flexible because some players really tend to hard commit when they have the ability to choose their components.
I mean, yeah, if for some reason you have basically I don't know, maybe I'm gonna just throw it out there. You get triple multi strikers, so you can just pop your anvils and try to look for some rage blades or a bloodthirster for that Kali or Kassadin. So you do have that end of the spectrum of players who are just hard forcing it, and on the other side you would have people who are just keeping their component anvils until the time that they feel like they have a set comp that they would go for, and only then would choose to use it up. So there's definitely some strategic play happening here.
Yeah, and we called it out before the start of the game. Worth the wait is going to be offered onto one here, but we are going to be going instead with Three's Company. So this is going to offer some more of those 3 cost reroll options to play around.
Hmm. As we're going around, we see wandering trainers is interesting. Something we didn't mention, but it is definitely a very interesting augment, and it can also give you a preset comp that you will have to use. But it is going to be the unified resistance. Is that a no? That's combat bandages. I thought that was a worth the wait, and that is a shapeshifter crest. So, you talked about the Shavana, and I'm guessing that Duck. Sorry, is that Duck? I think that's Duck. We're going to see him. We're going to see him piloted here for game number one.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting. I think slamming the Shojin leads me to wonder what exactly the carry they want to play around later on is going to be. Um, That is totally fine though, because Force Shapeshifter is a very powerful trait to have online in the early game. There's so much HP going on this board, and Zoe being able to shoot through one unit at a time, I think this is really an efficient way to play the early game. Now, I wonder what Worth the Wait has offered crazy here at this stage of the game. It might be that Blitzcrank, it might be that Jace.
So from what we look at production, if you can hover over if the augment once again, I think that was Jace.
All
Yeah, so
right.
it is. So it is that Jace. Haven't seen Jace 4 yet, but I hear he deals some crazy amounts of damage.
Yeah, that is going to be quite powerful. Sorry for the production difficulties at this stage of the game, but as we move on through stage 2, we are going to be having some interesting fights go on. And now this is a very interesting wandering trainer that we've spotted over on Sand's board. And I think that this is going to lead very powerfully into Karma, even though that line is not as strong as it may have been in the past. I think that it is still going to be very efficient if you are able to play +1 a Chrono and +1 a Witchcraft.
So yeah, it's going to be even more powerful that if you can get spatula from the carousel, and maybe even get witchcraft emblem, because eight eight witchcraft is no joke. And when you have a unit like Karma to just spread around those curses with the witchcraft emblem, it is going to be very, very problematic for anyone who decides to go up against go up against them. We see Three's Company. We see the Real Control having a Mordekaiser, a Swain, and the Nico plus the Zoe. So the Zoe too. So this is a very strong board for stage two, and we already see the Real Control has 20 gold, and sadly no streak yet, but I think they're still on a good track to get to 50 gold.
Yeah, I would agree. Although I think that the difficult thing here is, you've taken Three's Company, you have some of these three cost pairs, such as the Nico, and I think you're setting yourself up for a strong mid game. But what I would wonder is, are we going to have enough power to keep up with the other gold augments as we move on later into the game? And is the line that we've selected after slamming a blue buff going to be strong enough to win out? So I think that's really on the docket for that player to start solving that problem.
Yeah, just jumping off from what you've said, it's a very strong early to mid game augment, so you're definitely going to have to depend a lot on your 3-2 and 4-2 augments to just uh, get a good comp that'll jump you. They'll just jump you, over that threshold that can get you to just a very strong late game comp. So, uh, it's going to be very interesting for the Real Control, unless he pulls off the classic just hit angle and just manages to 2-star all of those units and has a breeze through stage 3 as well.
Yeah, and now we have the Rage Blade slammed for Duke. I think this is a very powerful early game. Would love to see them level up here just to guarantee or to increase the chances that they'll continue streaking, but they are the only player still sitting at 100 HP, so we know that, the other players have sort of duked it out, and Duke themselves, is in a much more commanding position. As we go into the matchup against Polament, I don't have any particular worries because we see that Polament still has those three anvils on their bench. There's a huge difference in item power here, and I think this Zoe is going to chew through Polament's board.
Yeah, I mean, Jace 2, Elise 2, and the previously mentioned Savannah plus the Zoe 2. So looking at it right there, Duke's board does seem to the Zoe does seem to be an item holder for sorry, yeah, the Duke's board does seem to have the Zoe as the item holder for maybe the Smolder. Well, you can always slam that Spear of Shojin on the Nomzi, and then just give that Rage Blade to Smolder. But Zoe is a very nice item holder. It's usually used to hold items for the Rise. So I'm very much not against this. Zoe is a very strong unit, especially for stage 2. And when you have a Zoe 2 like this to just complement your board, it's just amazing.
Yeah, now over on the other hand, we see Llama playing this Eldritch line. I don't think that Llama is threatening Duke's win streak here. Still would have loved to see them level up. That's totally fine though, because this is going to be a 5 streak, and Llama's in an interesting position, right? I think Eldritch has been an interesting line to play around this patch. Syndra has received some buffs among other units, and I think that, since her dominance at the very start of the set, she has not enjoyed the same level of strength since. But if you did have an early Syndra on this board, I wouldn't be complaining. You could start stacking up the power of her spell and really enjoy some of the benefits that come with it.
Yeah, sadly for Llama, we do not see a Syndra come through yet. However, we can expect all of that to change in the next few rounds, especially once you hit level 5 for him. And hopefully you can get to that 5 Eldritch at stage 3, because that would be extremely interesting for you. As once again, we do apologize. This is not a production issue. This is more of a spectator issue from the client. Hopefully, we get it resolved very very quickly. But we can just take stock of the boards right now. We see Duke taking on the Nomzi as well, so you have that dragon and the shapeshifters, and I think this is looking like a very strong board even for stage three.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think that you might start running into a damage problem when you have this Zoe because she is a very powerful unit with the way this board is being set up earlier on into the game. But I would also say that it's kind of a tough unit to continue to item carry as you move further forward in the game. And now you'll just get to see our faces because there's no more action happening on the TFT board for the time being. We'll get back to the spectator client as soon as possible.
Sadly, the spectator client has um, has proven to be a little bit difficult. But I think this has been since the implementation. Spectator has been a little bit a little bit wonky, but production has told us that we are back into the game, and the issue has been resolved. And it's interesting because second augments have now dropped.
Yeah, we can see that Duke is still on a very powerful win streak. They were able to acquire that Ionic Spark, and I think things are looking very good for them. Now, over here with the real control, I think they're starting to itemize maybe for something like a Karma, maybe for something like a Gwen. That could be very powerful, and they are on a win streak as well. That is going to be, a pretty powerful position to be in, especially if they hit this Nico 2, and they are up against Polament, who I regret to say still has not opened any of their anvils, and as a result, they cannot even hold units on their bench. Please, 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 Polament, make some decisions.
I mean, looking at that board. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Looking at his board is just wow. And he also went for item grab. Sorry for the grab bag. I forgot the correct name. Now we're going to see some anvils getting opened, and wow. I'm looking at the tier maybe just for that Hui. Have Hui be your carry for stage three, which I'm not opposed to. I think Hui is a very decent unit, especially with the buffs he received now in this last patch. So I think there are some options for polymers, especially you have the Hui, you have the Cogma too to help you out as well. So I'm I'm very interested to see what's going to happen to their board. Uh, Sadly, the the client is let's say being difficult with us.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit finicky. I haven't run into this problem before, but when you are spectating on the league client, you never know what's going to happen. So I think to go back to Poloman's spot, I would like to see them play around that way. I think that combat bandages is a very powerful augment for the frost trait in general because your frost units will get more powerful by being healed up by that augment, right? But I think that at the same time, really you need to start turning this game around. You've bled a lot of HP, and I don't even think Pullman's econ is looking all that strong. So you're really going to need to start dominating the mid game, or else things might look bad very, very quickly.
And we're already seeing we're seeing Parliament. I guess he probably heard you, even though there is a spectator delay. So he itemized the Rumble, which I don't think is a bad option. Like we said, Rumble is still a very good unit, deals a lot of damage, and Rumble seems to be an item holder for. I'm thinking the Olaf because those look like very much like Olaf items or maybe Fiora items. So I'm going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see which forecast he eventually chooses to go for. Uh, but yeah, he has a strong board. He There are some interesting things going on with this board as well. So it's going to be very nice to see how it develops.
I would agree with you there. Now, the real control has been on a win streak and hasn't seen Duke for a little bit. I believe they're both still very strong at this stage, and I am very interested to see whether they are going to match up in one of these two upcoming stages, because that could really determine who has the more advantageous position going into stage 4. Now, as I wished for, they are going to be matching up, and the real control on their side, they were able to level up to level 7. They were able to upgrade that Nico too, and she is doing wonders in that front line as she transforms, as she dishes out that stun. The Dragon's Claw on the Shyvana is not going to last all that long because Zoe is shredding the magic resist, but the same can be said over on the other side because these boards look awfully similar. Now it's going to be backline versus backline, and the Zoe for the real control is going to be the first one to fall. So Duke keeps their win streak. The real control, despite leveling up, not quite strong enough to take down Duke's win streak.
Sadly, the shapeshifter Zoe has a little bit of that extra HP, and it's a little bit more tanky. So, it is going to be a little bit more durable than the Zoe for the real control. But it is still going to be a very close fight, and the real control still clings on to second place. And yeah, I'm glad production put us over here because we haven't talked a lot about Crazy's board. We already see that Jay's being itemized, and we're not too far off the second Jay's 3. So we're missing 12 copies of Jay's for that famous four-star Jay, and Jay's being into the game.
Yeah, so many players playing around the shapeshifters here. I do think this Jace is doing a ton of work in the front line, takes down the Nico like no problem, and Crazy seems well on their way to a productive stage 4 as they play around the portal trait. They have 5 in right now, and they are going to be getting to 6 as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, we are basically, you have the Galio, you have the Cassidy, you have the Ezreal. So all you're missing is that Rise or the Taric, and once you get to that 6 portal, it is going to be very good for him. Maybe if you get even a portal emblem as your last augment, you can just try to go for that 8 portal and get a shapeshifter in to help out Chase. Maybe something like the Nasus, who we know can be very strong in the late game to just help out any and all boards.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And you can see that Crazy also opted into balanced budget. They kept their econ extremely powerful through the mid game, and now I think they're looking at a late game that sees them go to level 9 and really cap out very highly around this portal board. I think one of the big struggles could come here in stage 4, where I don't know how much they want to roll on level 8, but we'll see how things go.
I mean, I think a level 8 roll down is not the worst thing that you can do with this board, but if you're on a win streak, I think you have, because you have that strong Jace, you have the Zoe 2 to help out the board. You could potentially just greed it out a little bit, especially because of balanced budget. You have all of that extra economy. You could definitely go for the level up on level 9 and just try to hit the level 9 board. But it's going to be interesting to see if Crazy just goes all out or tries to do something a little bit more conservative. And the last augments are coming in, and it is a prismatic augment.
Yeah, and here with new recruit, I think it could make a little bit more sense to start rolling down on level 8 if you happen to find some units that you like. And a shapeshifter emblem is going to come out of that charm. Wow, that's a bit of a high roll, I would say.
Definitely a bit of a high roll. Ooh, we see the Call to Chaos from the Real Control, and they got the training dummies with the Zeke's Herald, which honestly very interesting. Not usually what you would get for what you would want to get with that mostly frontline board, but it's still very fun to see. But from what we could see, I think a few people managed to get new recruit in as their last augment, which I'm not opposing. Your recruit is a very strong augment right now.
Yeah, Call to Chaos on both sides here. You can see the Eldritch version of Karma going up against this sort of traditional version of Karma. And just by a hair, Gwen and Karma over on the blue side, over on the Observer side, is going to take that victory. And we can see these one costs are still duking it out in stage 4. Duke's win streak is finally going to come to an end as Smolder proves to be just a little bit stronger.
Uh, I believe that's Nomsy, not Smolder.
Oh, yeah.
uh,
It might want to be a
yeah,
Smolder later.
yeah, definitely going to be a Smolder a little bit later on, but no Mr. 100 game for Duke. But looking at Christopher's board, it is another shapeshifter board, but we're seeing a little bit of a mix with the Frostrate, which a little bit unorthodox, but also extremely understandable once you because you have that Nomsy, you have that Olaf to help you out, and the early Diana for Christopher, and also look at that economy. Like, Christopher is on track to get to level 9 right after this carousel and still have 50 gold left over.
Yeah, and I think they're being a little bit greedy, but that's acceptable in this situation, right? Christopher has 50 HP after this fight, but they're going to be able to level up to level 9 and have 50 gold left over to roll. And they're in a good position to start playing around powerful late game units like the Briar and like the Smolder.
I mean, yeah, you're going to be level 9. You have some very good Smolder items. I know a few people in this lobby are going to be fighting over that Smolder, so you know, it's going to be Wiggler that's going to grab it, but still, it's you are level 9 as Christopher. I think he's going to be the only one to go to level 9 after Carousel, so you're going to have that little bit of an advantage, and you're going to be front, right, and center and first pick of the 5 costs, which we already see the Briar coming in. We're seeing the Smolder, so this is turning into a very interesting late game board.
I am with you there. I think that as soon as they stabilize, they can start doing a ton of work here in this late game. But at the same time, I've seen these late game boards, like, they need to be optimized a little bit more than they currently are here. That's what I would say about this, because you're feeding the Briar, you've got the Smolder online, but this board can get a little stronger if you eventually move out of Dragons and opt into a more powerful late game trait, such as Arcana or such as Preservers. At the same time, though, over on the other side, I am having a hard time making out their name. San over there does seem to have that 8 Witchcraft activated, or at the very least, they have +2 to Witchcraft, so that is going to be a powerful contender for the late game if they can hit their units. All I gotta say about this lobby is that there are a ton of people indexing into Karma, into the Warriors, and that could prove to be difficult for a lot of them as they struggle to find upgrades for their level 8 boards.
Yeah, so that looks like it is Sanshiki. Just rolls right out of the tongue. Uh, well, yeah, looking at it, this is going to be a frost board at the end for Parliament. We were wondering about where he would go with this board, and it looks like it's just going to be the Olaf. Has the champion duplicator sitting on the bench, so I think they're waiting to see if they're going to hit the Diana 2 or the Olaf 2 first, so they can just use the duplicator on the other one, which very smart decision. But they have to be careful because Polemist might just be getting so close, 1 HP. I think that roll down has to happen right after these Raptors, because that was dangerously close to Parliament getting eliminated.
Yeah, this is a difficult spot to play, right? I think that when you have been a little bit behind in econ, when you have been a little bit behind on HP, you can end up in a situation like this. But there are still tools left for Pullman to work with. if they hit either of Olaf or Diana, they're going to be able to use the duplicator on the other one. And I think this item buffet is going to offer them some opportunities to make powerful items either for the backline when they maybe find a unit stronger than a Twitch one, or maybe for the front line as you go into a powerful item for Diana. Now this is going to be an important turn. I need to see Pullman make some decisions because there's going to be a charm you got to buy, there's going to be anvils you have to pop, and units you have to upgrade. But Pullman doesn't seem quite so interested in doing that. They might be scouting, they might be positioning, and now they're going to start making those decisions. Olaf is going to be upgraded. Will the Diana come into the shop? She will. And I think that we are looking at the very least a little bit stronger than we were a second ago.
And I mean, I think you're just looking at some, yeah, like you said, some Diana items. You want her to grab, to be a little bit more powerful than she is, because Diana, while she doesn't have too much strength in her ability, she does have that crazy AoE that can basically delete any backline, especially if you got your backline a little bit clumped up. And you're going to see here the healing is coming in, the damage is coming in, and is it going to be enough? Yes, it looks like it's going to be enough to defeat the board from the real control. And yeah, like you said, you need to have that roll down. You need to hit those 2 stars. And what happened? Pullman hit those 2 stars, and he gets to live another day.
Yeah, and like we were saying, some of these karma boards seem to be struggling a little bit. We saw in that fight that Pullman's Olaf, which was positioned in the second row on that farthest left side tile, uh, that Olaf was able to find his way all the way into the backline and took down Karma really early on into the fight. Here, on the other hand, we see Duke playing around with these shapeshifters and playing around with the blasters again. They're on their way to level 9, but I would point out that there are a few players like Christopher and like Llama who have already found Briar 2 and a couple copies of Smolder, so that could be really difficult to play as we move on. Now we have the matchup against Sanshiki, and the Karma and the Chrono effect. This is a lot to deal with for the Blaster board.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a less optimized board once you take a look at it, because there's a Fiora 2 on the other end. There's a Karma. There's a Vex coming in that's beating everyone. And oh wow, Parliament is going to get eliminated by this board from Christopher. And I mean, it's a little bit sad because they hit a lot of upgrades, but Christopher just had that great decon, just managed to level up so much so early on. And it has the virtually the late game version of the shapeshifter dragon board with that double rage blade smolder, just destroying everything in its path.
Yeah, it's a heartbreaker for Poliment, but I think that, you know, having a different path in the early game could have solved some of those problems as you head into the late game. As we see, Christopher is now going up against Duke's board, and I think Duke did finally level up to 9, but I don't know if they were able to find the Smolder here. So we are going to have the Briar and the Smolder against a board that wants to have a Smolder but has a Nomsy. And we can see the difference in these two boards as Smolder on Christopher's side is scaling up with a double Rage Blade. The front line is still standing up strong, and Duke, unfortunately, might be beaten at their own game by someone who got a ton of power in terms of EXP and levels through their augments, through patient study, and through the call to chaos.
And yeah, I mean, this is Duke for a long time. Was the lobby leader. I was wondering whether he would pull off a Mr. 100 game here, but sadly he has not hit the Briar. He has not hit the Smolder, so he can't go for this late game board. Meanwhile, everyone else around him is hitting these crazy upgrades and late game boards. So it's really it's really heartbreaking to see. But this is a very interesting board. This is a callback to a few patches ago, where the frontline Ezreal would be coming in, allowing for those backline blasters to just scale up and do a lot. But Wiggler sadly has not managed to hit the 3-star Ezreal, which would be the optimal version of this board, but does, however, have some 2 stars. The Varus, the Tom Kench is level 1, but you do have the Hecarim, and the Hui 3 is going to be the unit I'm going to be looking at.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be looking at Hui for that long.
Nah.
Unfortunately for Wiglor, they can cook, but they've also been chopped. Down here in 7th place, it's a tough way to go out, but when you see the power of some of the boards in this lobby, you can't even be all that surprised, because there are players who hit 2-star 5 costs on level 8. There are players who have, like Llama, at level 9 with this Briar 2 upgraded, and now with the Karma as well. This is going to be a ton of power here in the late game.
I mean, you have a Karma 2, you have a Briar 2, you have an Eldritch Emblem, and you have Arcana coming in. So, like, this is a very scary board. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is a very scary board, and I mean, Llama could definitely go into the late, go into and do a lot, as we see Duke's board now going up against it, and Duke has somehow managed to hit a Briar 2.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of power over for Duke because they were finally able to get 8 Shapeshifter online, so the Eldritch front line is falling very quickly, the Smolder is scaling up in the back line, and unfortunately for Llama, despite hitting that Briar 2 very early on, I think they struggled to make a board that would contest the legendary power of some of the other players here. And I'm glad to see Duke figure it out and stabilize in such a way that they were able to secure a top 4. Now it's going to be Christopher. I think the most powerful players in the lobby here are Christopher and Sanchiki. Those players have really found a ton of power here in the late game. If Christopher upgrades this Briar, I think it could be a real nightmare to deal with, as this Smolder also scales throughout the fight. But on the other side, you have the power of both, I think, 4 Chrono and 8 Witchcraft, and that Karma is just going to do a ton of damage. There's a huge amount of CC against the front line of whoever they're fighting against, and it's a real nightmare to deal with as well.
Yeah, I mean, the 8 Witchcraft 2-star Karma, like we said at the beginning, is so difficult to deal with. You have 4 Chrono for the time stop, but I don't know who I would be picking between that board or this board that Christopher has, because this is now you have the Briar 2 for Christopher, you have the Smolder 2, and it's really scary. And I guess we don't have to wait that long to pick, because they're up against each other.
Yeah, the Earthquake coming through in the early stages of the round means that there is going to be a little bit of time for Christopher to start cooking, but Smolder has been CC'd, the rest of the front line is falling, Briar has been fed for a very long time, and she's still standing up against the Witchcraft units, but is Smolder going to start to get the Hex on him? He does. Zillion follows up with a CC, and Christopher's win streak has ended. There's going to be one more round left for them to fight it out, but I don't know if Christopher can deal with Senchiki in this late game.
Duke also got eliminated at the end of that fight by the real control, so we do have to say goodbye to Duke. I thought he was going to be definitely in the top 3 based on the early game, but just wait. It was too long until from the time when he hit the Briar 2 to when. From like when he had the early shapeshifter board. Sadly, also we lost Crazy as well. We did not get to see that Jace 4 in action. We did not get to see the craziness, but hopefully we get to see a 4-star 1-cost or 2-cost next game, as Sanchiki is going up against the real control. And I mean, this Karma, man, she's just destroying everything.
Yeah, I think it gets really difficult because we saw Senshiki pick up a 3rd Witchcraft emblem on one of the carousels in Stage 5, so that really just puts this composition over the top. It means that Karma is going to spread the Hex to the entire board, and that is a really difficult position to play from, right? We saw the real control. They were able to pick up what I believe was the Silver Guard charm that gave their entire board crowd control immunity for the start of the fight. And that really did make a difference for a little while, but it wasn't quite enough. And now we see Christopher going up against Senshiki for first place, but Christopher wasn't even able to find a charm in this round. So we have Senshiki really bring all their force to bear against Christopher, and is it going to be enough?
I mean, it's looking right now as if it's going to be enough, because this Briar has sadly not done a lot. But oh wait, the Smolder and the Briar teaming up to defeat the Karma, and Christopher in a turn of events is going to be taking game one right off of Sanshiki's hands. Christopher with that call to chaos, making it happen. The Epoch just bringing it in at the end. We mentioned how he was the first one to level up to 9. We said that he got first choice amongst those five costs, and 2-star Smolder, 2-star Briar. For a minute there, I thought definitely that they were going to be dying towards that Karma, because it certainly looked like that. However, the time stop did not give Sanshiki enough time to just delete those 5 cards that have gotten the upgrades. And congratulations to Christopher.
Yeah, I think Christopher really made the most out of their situation. Started the game with a patient study, really inclined themselves to play around level 8 and level 9, and the Call to Chaos fit very well into that game plan, allowing them to leapfrog even further on that EXP scale. So, even though they didn't get to level 10, even though they had a ton of EXP in the bank in the middle of stage 6, it didn't really matter because they were able to find Briar very early on, and they spent a lot of their HP feeding her and turning her into a beast that had the ability to get into the backline, to absorb a ton of crowd control, and to start doing a ton of damage to the backline of the enemy team. We saw that effect take place when Briar found her way onto Karma and really changed that fight for Christopher.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, you even saw it there at the end. Briar had that Edge of Night, which I think helped out quite a lot just with that, karma damage. And because Edge of Night sheds all negative effects, it also sheds all of that DOT and that burn from the Morellonomicon. So, smart itemization, very good from Christopher. Uh, but congratulations to Christopher. A little bit of commiserations from Sanshiki, but still, second place in that high roll of a lobby is still very, very good in my opinion. And we are going to be throwing it to a very quick break, but we'll be right back with game 2. And we would like to thank our sponsors, Rira and Dogpatch Labs. So grab a drink, stretch your legs, don't go too far, because we'll be back very shortly with game 2.
Welcome back once again to the Ireland Esports Collegiate Series. We have here the TFT competition for the winter season, and we are in week 2. Now we have our second game of the evening, and I'm Invective, I'm with Deadly Ghost here, and we're really excited to bring you some more TFT action.
Uh, Hello everyone. If you're just joining us, we're going to be going into game 2 of today's broadcast. Game 1 was a massive victory for Christopher, who managed to get that very interesting shapeshifter dragon board. Got to level 9 really early and managed to get that win. So congratulations to Christopher. And for game 2, we are going to be seeing some new faces as we're loading into the game. Maybe someone who we have not yet gotten the opportunity to get to know. So I'm very happy and very interested to see some of the other players in this tournament, Invective.
Yeah, for sure. I think I recognize some of these names from our previous week of competition. I think that there are some real competitors here, and most of them seem to be standing on the gold subscription. But sometimes the minority wins in TFT, and we are going to be going with overachievers. So I believe this means we are going to be getting more powerful charms earlier on into the game.
Yeah, so powerful charms are appearing earlier on. They are not 50% off, which is the other portal you can get connected to charms. So this is you're still going to be required to spend some of that gold for those late game charms, like the random emblems, like the stuns and the wounds uh and the burns. So it's going to be interesting to see what our players are going to cook up in this game too. And I mean, I think it was last game that Wiglor had the blasters. Uh, Everyone can cook, but not everything is always edible.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. It can be very difficult to play a line that is a little less powerful than the top tier in TFT, especially when you are a little bit lower on HP than everyone else. I think that Wiglor really had a strong game plan in the last game, but they might not have had all the HP they needed to execute on that game
Mm.
plan. And that is one of the challenges of TFT because you have a few resources you need to manage in order to make sure you can actually get to the point you want to go. And one other
Uh,
thing that I wanted to bring up about our last game is that there were a lot of players who were really contesting each other's units. And I would love to see our players scout a little bit more diligently as we get a prismatic augment for our first choice here.
and it is going to be I am the carry now for coming in. Wandering trainer with a portal and a scholar. I really wonder what that person is going to be going as we see the hedge fund coming in. Uh, another hedge fund and Spoils of War, and Spoils of War is probably one of my favorite uh, augments to have. We see a flexible and going long. So going long is something that I haven't taken it. I haven't played a lot with it, but I know in the right circumstances it can be a very strong augment. And Tel Kusovai, I think we have had him in one of our games last week. So it's going to be interesting how he's going to pilot going long in this game.
Yeah, I think going long can be challenging to play around. Because you are able to access higher levels earlier on into the game, you can really build a win streak if you find a powerful board to field for stage 2. At the same time, though, things can get really difficult if you are on a mixed win streak because then you really don't have any economic advantage in the long term over some of your competitors who really get to build up their interest and get econ in that way. And like we said, there are, I think, 2 players in this lobby who have hedge fund. So there is a lot of greed going on, and there is going to be a really powerful late game if those players get to access high level units or, really roll down very hard in stage 3. Now, over on the other side, we see Pupango already with a Hecarim 2 upgraded, and that could be a big deal for this round because at this stage of the game, that is a way more powerful unit than anything Thelkusavai has to bring to bear.
I mean, Telkusavai is definitely bringing the power with the Hecarim. However, I believe. Sorry, Pupango is bringing the power of the Hecarim. However, Telkusavai has the power of friendship and the power of level 5 because that Zoe and Ari managed to make short work out of that very scary horse.
Yeah, that was
But
a very close fight. Now,
yeah,
over here with Sprumble, this is going to be a interesting fight. We saw them take I'm the carry now, and they've gotten off to a hot start with 2 rounds won. And now they have access to what I think is one of the most powerful augments in the game at the moment, or powerful charms in the game at the moment. When you have an early game like this one, when you don't have any items slammed, you have the ability to turn all 3 of your components into static shiv, and this really does make a difference because that's a lot of direct damage going into the enemy board. But we are going to see the Hecarim again on the other side, but it falls almost immediately, and Pupango seems to be on a bit of a loss streak despite having a very powerful upgrade this early into the game. And here with Mitra, we have another what looks to be a mage board here early on in the game, and I think that alongside this hedge fund, we are really going to get to see a powerful board come together in the mid game, whether they are playing around Vigar, whether they are playing around these 1 costs. They can really make something happen with all the gold that they've gotten from their augment, because it kind of looks like they're already really strong.
yeah. Sorry about that. I got decommissioned a little bit. Yeah, but looking, I just came back towards the end of that round. That's a mage board with hedge fund, and like you said, this board is already looking extremely strong, and having the mages this early on, and with the hedge fund, which is just going to increase your economy by such a huge amount. I'm It's interesting to me because we could see the roll down happening, or we could see just the mages being brought in for the early game and then just level up once you hit that 100 gold.
Yeah, for sure. I think that this early game is extremely flexible now that you have this powerful front line with the Galio 2. And you can see that Mitra is not even concerned about getting to level 5. They know that they can't hard contest a win streak with players like Thelkusavai in the lobby, but they are content to make these econ intervals every round and accelerate the game in that way.
I mean, yeah, looking at it, the the charm that they have only works in adjacent tiles, and the Blitzcrank just got killed, so that Galio explosion dealt virtually zero damage. But still, Micha is holding on very very nicely. Only having lost 2 rounds, and it hasn't been that much damage to that board. So with economic augments, you're definitely looking towards losing as little HP as possible in the early stages, just so you can get that economy build up, especially when you have something like the hedge fund. Uh, but now we're looking over at Steady Mind, who has birthday present, and I mean we mentioned Pupango having Spoils of War. We have birthday present, and technically the 2 of them could also be classified as economy augments.
Yeah, a lot of players are going for those econ augments in this game. And I think Steady Mind, this is a risky move to do with Birthday Present. You don't have any source of econ in between the times that you level up, but this was a really fortunate level up because this Galio fits nicely on this board. It gives them a frontline synergy and allows them to have a 4 streak going into neutrals here. We saw Thelkusavai, their win streak fell off, and I assume that was because Sprumble was able to take the victory there as they continued their win streak.
Yeah, so it definitely was a loss against Rumble, But Telkusavai has now managed to grab a Fiora, which is something that is going to be very scary to go up against in stage 3, especially if we're going to get a little bit more lucky with the items, or we could just see a complete pivot into Rise because at Raptors you have a Fiora and a Rise, and Telkusavai definitely has some options open to him, and we're going to see both 4 Witchcraft and 3 Portal getting fielded in. So I think we found the board that is going to maybe not dominate, but definitely do extremely well during stage 3.
I would tend to agree with you there, Deadly Ghost, because having these two forecasts this early on into the game is a huge boon to any player. And we can see that despite the emblems on the opposing board, I really don't think that we're gonna have any difficulty dealing with those. And we know that Rise and Fiora are some of the more powerful forecasts in this meta, as both of them have the ability to get past some of the powerful front lines that the reroll boards can field. If you have a Wukong, if you have a Vex, these units can go around them, and that is part of what makes this board powerful. Hold the recombomb.
Oh, oh, we're going to be re-rolling the recombobulator.
I'll say
Now
it. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. That could be a smolder and a briar.
that could be a Smolder and a Briar, but you know what else it could also be? A Milio and a Morgana.
Yeah, well, it could be worse. Both of the units give gold, so I don't think there's any legendary that
Yeah,
you would really be super
yeah,
disappointed with.
2 and 2.5. Yeah,
But like at the same time, I can understand why you wouldn't want to give up a good thing that you have going, right? And there aren't that many other reasons to take Recon in that situation. I just wanted to see it because I have no personal stake in the outcome of the game for Thelkusify.
I mean, still, getting getting a 2-5 cost at stage 3-2 would definitely have been very interesting. But now we're going to be taking a look at Yushinomi, who is the other person who has the hedge fund and also grabbed the Pandora. So this is another flexible board, which we still don't know where it's going right now, but I think I have a general feeling for where this is going to be. This is headed because I see 2 rods and I don't see tears or gauntlets being picked up. So maybe these are going to be rage plates, and we're looking for a level 8 Callista board with some of those fairies to field out.
Yeah, I think that is definitely one of the options on board here. The Warmogs is also a great item for Rakan, but this is a tough loss streak to be managing for you, Shinomi. And, I would really be cautious because they are going to have to make some decisive moves here at the end of stage 3 and at the beginning of stage 4 in order to stabilize their game. It's a bold strategy to loss streak this hard. And I think that if you are taking the Pandora's items, if you want to play for the most powerful line in the game, and if you think that that is Callista, then more power to you. But this is a prismatic lobby, and there are some players who could get very, very strong.
I mean, you already saw Pupenga with the Spoils of War making so much money. You should know me is going to be taking that Nami, so maybe semblance of a mage board, maybe or maybe just take the Nami for the CCN to just give you that little bit of extra combat power that will allow you to not get a lot of damage dealt to you. Because if we're looking at it, Yushinomi could arrive at 4-2 with one maximum of 2 lives left, so it's going to be very scary. And Sprumble is going to roll past the random emblem, and is just playing this Dragon Shapeshifter board, which we already saw is extremely powerful. Has the featherweights for that Namzi and for that Chavana, and your one cost, your two costs are going to be extremely more powerful. Uh, well, I wouldn't say extremely, but definitely have that little bit of an extra oomph that you would need to take out the enemy board.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think featherweights is definitely one of the ways you can make this reroll composition work, but I don't know if we have enough Nomsies to guarantee that we'll have Nomsy 3 at any point in this game, and that
Mhm.
means I'm not sure if this game plan is going to be viable long term. That being said, Sprumble is certainly off to a healthy start to the game. With 92 HP, I think that's more than you could ask for if you are rerolling. So in that lens, like there is some validity for this game plan.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're looking at it, it's the lucky find of an Nasus, and you also have the Bard being. I'm guessing, I'm guessing Bard is there for the damage debuff that you would get on other units because taking 10% extra damage across the entire board, especially when you have someone like Shyvana who can go even in the backline and utilize it really well, is going to be very nice. But we're jumping over to Telkusavai, and I mean, Invective. I think this is going to be an Arcana board.
Yeah, I mean, there's also this like Rise Fear Witchcraft board that I think is doing really well here. I mean, Thelkusify really found everything that they needed, and they're making a mess of the rest of the lobby because Lunch Money is offering them extra gold every turn. They have been able to dominate economically so far in this game, and I'm curious to see how far they can take it. Because one thing that we've seen in the last few games that we've been able to spectate Deadly Ghosts is that the player who is win streaking doesn't always have an easy time pivoting their board into one that is really powerful late game. We've seen win streakers tend to go like 4th place, and I want to see Thelkusify do a little bit better than that here.
Yeah, I definitely want to see Telkusavai go towards the end. Uh, pardon the pun, but go long into this game, and manage to get some very some very good results for himself. And I mean, you have a second rise, you have enhance, maybe you and that could also be a shiv coming in for the rise, or maybe you're waiting for that rage blade coming onto him. And Tel Kusavai is definitely on his way to make a very very strong late game board. You know, doesn't have too much money for it, but is going to find the Briar. Is does have a Nora in the shop, so can even opt for those portal units. But no, he's just going to get a Karma. He's just going to get a Briar. Tel Kusavai definitely has a very interesting game plan here, and something that you said is destroying people economically, and he has a strong economy in every way but the conventional way because he doesn't get interest.
Yeah, that's for sure. I would love to see them pick up that Nora. I think that that board really does get strong if you are able to put the 5 cost that goes with the traits on it. I think that's pretty good in general, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Here we have our third augment though, and combat bandages is going to be the pick of the litter, so to speak, in this situation.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe if we aren't playing towards Rise and Fiora, we are going to be using the Briar more so. And I think that's also a very reasonable decision here because we've seen how powerful Briar can be when you feed her earlier on into the game, and Thelakusavai has plenty of HP to go around, and they can find their way to level 9 by going long.
Yeah, we're already seeing some of these late game items coming in for a lot of some of the other people. Sprumble already had a support item and he got another one. Practice partners is just very strong for this mage board, especially when you have the 3-star Soraka, the 3-star Seraphine. You have 50 gold for Micha, so I guess Micha went towards the reroll portion of the hedge fund. And I mean, good on him. He found a lot of upgrades, a lot of carries, but it does seem like he's going to be slowly getting withered down by this Nasus, who is going to just tank up all of the damage from that Seraphine. And Micha, I think, will need to do a lot. And sadly, you should know me, faces up against the real control and is going to get eliminated right after 4-2. And I mean, he went up against the real control, who managed to get that portal emblem and has the Wandering Trainer portal emblem. So 8 portal was hit very early on.
Yeah, that's weird. I think that they might be able to play 10 portal at level 9. That's concerning for the rest of the lobby, because if the real control doesn't lose many fights, then they are certainly going to be able to get to that point.
Sadly, it is a 3. It is, the real control just hit level 8, has 3 gold, 2 XP, so he's going to need to build up a lot of economy from the stage 4 and have that rise be the main carry. And it is a rise 1, we don't even see a pair of rises to help out, and the rise is already struggling with against this Briar from Tel Kusavai, but it is going to be enough in the end. But Tel Kusavai has that second rise, has some of those upgrades waiting to happen. So this is going to be a very, very interesting stage 5. I think, because I think they're both going to survive stage 4, but they seem to be both contesting each other on some of these units.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the game plan is for Tel Kusavai at this point, because it does look like they pivoted away from Rise and over onto Karma. I think that's totally valid if they want to get to level 9 and play around some different units. Karma might be stronger at 1 star. But now we have the Nami upgraded, and this is really starting to look good. I'm not sure what we took the glove for, but hey, it could be whatever you want it to be.
I think it's going to be another Rise item, maybe the Jewel Gauntlet, because it's not a bad item for Rise. We see already the Shojin and the Archangel, so unless it's unless you want to get the static shift, it's definitely looking like it's going to be JG, and I'm not opposed to it. It's a really good item on Rise, but I think you do need that Rise to help you out with that little bit of extra oomph.
Yeah, I would agree that you do want to get some of these upgrades going, but I do think the Real Control has the ability to greed in this situation. You can see that they're doing reasonably well in the fight up against Sprumble, who has been win streaking up until this point, because this front line just lasts for so long with the extra shields, with the stuff that comes out of the portal. You can see that the Krug just does a ton of tanking for them, and Sprumble is going to have their win streak ended by this 8 portal board here at 4-5.
I mean, this is so strong right now for the Real Control, but sadly we have some other people going down towards the low ends, of the health board, and one of those people is Pupengo, who has hit a 5 warrior board, which I think that should be 4 warriors, right? I think the Neela might just be, the extra here that is not really needed, but still, we do have the Fiora, we have the Akali too, and Pupengo does have some strength to his board, especially when the Akali and the Fiora can go onto the backline like this really easily against the board that the Real Control has.
Yeah, this is difficult, right? Because Pupengo is quite low, but you can see that they're sort of riding the edge of that loss streak. They were losing throughout a large part of this stage, but by finding the upgrade to the Fiora 2, they might have stabilized themselves enough to get to level 9, if that's where they want to go. But like you said, right, there are ways that we can optimize this board more for level 8 by maybe adding some preservers, by removing this Neela, and by finding the upgrade to the Gwen. And I am concerned because there are a lot of powerful players in this lobby.
It is going to be so difficult for Pupengo to just find what he needs, and maybe I think I think Pupengo might just want to wait a little bit to level up, but oh no, never mind. It just yeah, he was just reforging some items onto that Fiora. Ooh, we see a Briar. We see a Rakan coming in. The Briar is going to get skipped and not bought, which I think is definitely a mistake. Yeah, would have had a Briar too, and we also see the Gwen here. So I think maybe Pengo is getting just that little bit dizzy into trying to find a decent stage 5 board.
Yeah, I mean, this Fiora is still very strong, but I think that it can also be difficult, right? At this point, I can understand not really wanting to play around the Briar because so much of your board is built around the power of these warriors, and Fiora's items would be the ones going onto Briar. You also don't have a lot of HP, and we have to unfortunately say goodbye at this point to Micha as well. We saw them re-rolling the mages, but I don't think they were able to scale quite as well as they wanted to. They maybe hit a little bit later than is optimal, and that can be very difficult, right? Because if you don't hit quickly enough with reroll, if you don't play the tempo of the rest of the game out correctly, you can fall behind. And in prismatic lobbies, that can be a particular challenge.
I mean, prismatic lobbies always have a very big difficulty to them because of how strong some of these players can get even early on, and how much of power their boards can have. And you have here Claro who went with the branching out and has 5 Frost, 5 Mage, has also the Arcanas with him, and it's based on the emblems. It's a very unorthodox board, but the board that somehow makes sense once you take a closer look at it.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the boards that I've never seen before, but I think it, like you said, it does make sense. You're leaning into certain traits that are strong right now, like the mages, and, this Vigar does seem to be doing at least some work into, some of the players in this lobby, and we'll see if Claro is going to be able to hold on against other powerful players here. We have Steady Mind, who went to level 9 with a birthday present alongside this Jinx that they were able to find in the middle of stage 3. And even though they're not super optimized for level 9, they have a Nora 2 in the backline. She's pumping out damage on this big clump of units here in the front, and Jinx is scaling up with the Rage Blade, but it's not going to be enough because Claro has put together some real power here, and Steady Mind's going to be taking a bad loss.
Steady Mind is taking a bad loss. Pupengo is going to be eliminating the real control. The 8 portal board not holding out and losing out to this spoils of war board. And I mean, Pupengo is threading the needle with the 1 HP, but it seems like he has somehow managed to stabilize, managed to get some of those wins in. I believe he lost HP by feeding a Briar, so it's still very good for him. He was dead last, and he was looking like he was on the verge of getting eliminated. So, and manages to hit the Gwen upgrade as well. So Pupengo is definitely looking strong. Someone who we haven't looked in a while is Sprumble with this Dragon Shapeshifter board, and I mean, you also have the Pyro emblem, which is something that is extremely strong on the Smolder. So I would have liked to see, the Smolder items get removed and maybe replace the Giant Slayer with the Pyro emblem. But it's still a strong board, a strong emblem, and I think Sprumble is just waiting to get one more Shapeshifter to put in for that 6 Shapeshifter.
Yeah, I think this is a case where your roll down can get a little bit confusing. You get to level 9, you have a bunch of options you could do to make your board stronger, but you're really laser focused on one or two options. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it didn't matter in this fight. Sprumble is still going to be winning this one, but there are a lot of optimizations that you could make, like you said. Putting Varus on the board is going to buff both Smolder and the Pyro trait, but at the same time, you can also really go for like even dropping Dragon, because if your main carry is Smolder, he doesn't benefit quite as much from that trait. You don't have to have a Nomsy on this board either.
No, you don't. And we have some good news, Invective. Like,
What is that good news?
your wish has been made into a reality because both Sprumble and Telkusovai were our win streakers early on in the game, and they have both made it towards that top 3. So we finally have a win streaking board from the early game, make it to a better place than a top 4.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad to see that as well. I think Thelkusify is really just playing quite standard at like a standard late game board, and we're gonna see a matchup between two relatively standard late game boards as both of these players are playing around the Smolder, are playing around the Briar. I think I would tend to favor Thelkusify's spot a little bit more, because I think that their augments are leaning well into the late game here, and their itemization seems to reflect maybe better overall choices. Having the Spite buffing both the Smolder and the Briar is also something you can do in this situation, and in what is more or less a mirror matchup, I think that these choices are going to edge Thelkusify up over Sprumble here at the end of the game.
See, for me, it is going to be who is going to hit those upgrades first, because both of them, like you said, are looking towards those are looking towards the Smolder and the Briar, but Smolder 2 is going to get picked up for the side of Telkusovai, and in response, Sprumble is going to hit the 2-star Briar. So, I mean, neither player is giving up on their boards, and they're basically telling each other, yo, you're going to hit that, I'm going to hit this, and we're still going to be equally matched.
Yeah, look at the way this fight is going, though. Sprumble's Smolder was able to find a lot of damage onto the Smolder of Thelkusify early on this fight, but Thelkusify's Smolder is still standing up for itself and takes the victory somehow. Casting this is so strange because I don't know if the Smolder AI is doing what it's supposed to be doing, but Thelkusify takes Sprumble's lunch money, and this fight is gonna be a duel for the ages.
I mean, Telkusovai Smolder may as well be Elton John because he's still standing at the end of that fight, and I mean, you saw it. The Smolder survived up until the very end. You had a lot of damage coming in from the Smolder, just deleting most of that backline, and this is going to be a very fun lobby to cast, especially because these final two boards are so similar to each other.
Yeah, and the Pyrospat, by the way, for Sprumble has been moved on over to the Briar, and I think that could make a difference, as she is the main advantage that Sprumble has in this fight. You can see the difference that has made. The gem pops, and Sprumble takes a victory over Thelkusify. This is going to come down to the wire, and Thelkusify now, I think, has to find an upgrade or a charm that is going to give them an advantage again.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want that Briar too. You definitely want that Nasus too, because Sprumble has the extra help from that defensive item Golem. So effectively you're fighting with one extra unit as Sprumble, and if you already have these these upgrades hit on some of these same units, you're definitely not going to be worrying yourself about who is doing what. And look at that, Telkusovai's Smolder gets focused by the Briar. It is going to kill the Briar, but however, it's going to be killed in the process, and Sprumble is going to be taking the W in game 2. But I mean, Telkusavai put up a very good fight.
Yeah, for sure. In the era of dragons, it seems like we are having a hell of a late game between Smolder and Smolder, between Namzi and Namzi, Shyvana, Briar and Briar. I think that, it can be a little bit funny if that's the way that the late game really does play out. But I think both Sprumble and Thelkusavai were able to do a lot of work to extend their economic advantage over the rest of the lobby and find their way to that late game, that it seems like all of our players have an idea in mind that, that's a powerful way that I can play the late game, but only some of them were able to get there.
Yeah, I mean, we saw two boards towards the end that were basically contesting each other, like you said, but the thing is, you also had a lot of economic augments coming in, and I think Telkusavai and Sprumble use that to their advantage to just get these early game win streaks. And we said before, it's a prismatic lobby, so it is going to be extremely volatile. Even with just one prismatic augment, you can get a lot of changes coming into the game, and we saw there some people not utilizing those economy augments in the best way possible, and definitely suffered for it. Which, I mean, kudos to Telkusva and Sprumble for realizing that they have the advantage and just pushing their advantage up to the max.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much for tuning in to week 2 of the Ireland Esports Collegiate Series, the TFT Winter season. And before we go, I'd like to give another shout out to our sponsors, Dogpatch Labs, GG Machines, PlayAid, Nativz, upon whose stream we are streaming, and Stack.